How's it hanging, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and Sprint has quite the Android lineup. They started with the EVO 4G, moved on to the Epic 4G, and now the EVO 3D, but they're getting another high-end Android phone. The Motorola PHOTON 4G just came out, and it's available now for $199.99. Now this bad boy goes up against the EVO 3D. Heck, it goes up against the old EVO 4G, and it goes up against the Epic 4G as well, and the EVO Shift 4G. So a lot of 4G options on Sprint, but this is a bad boy. It's got a 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, 8 megapixel camera, front-facing camera, and Android 2.3. So out of the box, it's ready to rock and roll on the nation's third largest wireless carrier. Is this the device for you, or should you go with the EVO 3D? Well, you're going to want to check out our dogfight, which is coming up right after I shoot this video, but be sure to check the review, which starts right now as well. First, special thanks to our buds over at Best Buy. There are boys. They hook us up with a lot of phones. And I shouldn't say boys. There are boys and girls, and they hook us up with phones for use in our One Paw Bandit game. So when you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working, and they'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, all that good stuff. Something else, because I put up a fourth finger, but something else will help you walk out working. Best Buy Mobile. Enough of that, let's get into it. Full review, Motorola PHOTON 4G. Is this the one to get, or should you go with something else? We'll find out starting right now. So here's the Motorola PHOTON 4G. It came out on July 31st, and it's available now at Sprint for $199.99, and this thing goes up against the EVO 3D as the top contender in Sprint's smartphone lineup. So it's an awesome Android phone. It's nice to see some more Android devices coming to Sprint. You know, with the EVO 4G, they kind of paved the way with those high-end Android phones, and now that the market's saturated with Androids, well, you gotta have as many in your lineup as possible to create that diversity so people can come in and say, hey, I like that one, I don't like that one. You know, a lot of options for consumers. So the Motorola PHOTON 4G, just to give you a quick rundown of the specs, it has a dual-core 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, has an 8 megapixel camera, front-facing camera as well, so you can shoot videos. And let me go out of this real quick so you can see kickstand on the back. And then all in all, you know, it kind of looks actually like an iDen phone. When I pulled it out of the box, my first thought was it looks just like a Nextel phone, but you can see over here, micro USB charging port, HDMI port on the side there, volume rocker, and camera button as well. It's running Android 2.3 out of the box, so Gingerbread out of the box when you buy it with Motorola's applications platform. Now don't let them hear you call it MOTOBLUR, because that's not what it is anymore. They're calling it Motorola's applications platform. It's changed. You know, they listened to consumer feedback, decided that the Blur name was too tarnished, and they got rid of it. But a little bit of a difference. You know, we saw this kind of debut on the Motorola Droid X2, and it's been on all the other devices since. The Droid 3, this device, and a couple of the other Motorola devices that I sound like I know, but I can't remember on the video, so I'm just going to say other Motorola devices. Motorola PHOTON 4G, like I said, you know, Motorola's applications platform looks good here, and out of the box you get the typical Sprint stuff. You get NASCAR, Sprint Cup Mobile, you get Sprint Music Plus, Sprint Radio, Sprint TV, Sprint Worldwide. Now one thing that's cool about this device, did not mean to do that, one thing that's cool about this device is it's a global roaming device. So not only is it 4G capable, so it supports Sprint's WiMAX frequency that they use, but it's also global roaming capable, so there's a SIM card slot in the back of this, and I'll turn it off so you can see. SIM card slot back here, so whenever you go overseas, you can, and actually Sprint's pretty good about unlocking the SIM card slot, so if it's not unlocked already, you should be able to get it unlocked before you travel. But there's a Sprint SIM card here in the back, and you can travel overseas to Italy, to Spain, to London, wherever, and you know, take advantage of using your own number. So 1,650 milliamp hour battery back here. So that's kind of cool because, you know, previously, and especially if you're on a CDMA carrier, it can be kind of frustrating to pick one of those devices that's, you know, global roaming capable, but not necessarily something you want to use on a daily basis. Like, let's say the, you know, BlackBerry Bold 9650. It's an older device. You know, there are other BlackBerries that are on the way out. And there's some other cool, you know, iOS and Android devices that you may want to use, but because it had that global roaming capability, people that traveled had to either keep it or switch over to it before they left. Now you can get, you know, this high-end cool Android phone and not have to worry about flipping back and forth every time you travel out of the country. So like I said, Android 2.3, Motorola's applications platform. You can see the differences here in comparison to something like the original MOTOBLUR, which we saw on the Atrix 4G before it got Gingerbread, and the Motorola Devour, some of the older devices. It really looks better, and you know, people that, and I say this all the time, people that have, you know, downed MOTOBLUR in the past, take a look at Motorola's applications platform. I hated MOTOBLUR, and I really like Motorola's applications platform. It's a huge improvement, it looks better, and just across the board, a lot of improvements here with the way things flow. It's fast, there's no lag whatsoever. That was a big issue with MOTOBLUR. It's pretty quick, speedy, no lag whatsoever. And while some of that's thanks to the dual-core processor, it's also because of this newer build of this lighter build, if you will, of Motorola's applications platform. So you can see what it looks like here. You have kind of an iPhone S dock down here, iOS S dock, if you will, down at the bottom with your call, what I have down here, calls, messages, browser, and then my applications drawer. So let's say I want to take contacts, and I want to bring it down here to replace messaging. I can drag it in, and it will replace messaging. So you can do that. A lot of customization options. I can add, of course, Motorola and Android widgets. And one thing I really like about Motorola's widgets, they're customizable in size. So I can come up here to a Motorola widget, change the size around if I want to, make that the way the date calendar, or make that the way the calendar looks, make that the way the calendar looks, make it a little bit smaller if I want to. So when you're dealing with one of your 7 home screens that come on this device, let's say, I don't have any tight ones, but let's say here, you're dealing with limited space. You can put a widget here, put a couple over here, and versus something like HTC Sense or something like TouchWiz where it's one size fits all, and if it doesn't fit on the screen, you have to move it to another home screen. That's a big plus for MOTOBLUR, something Motorola's applications platform, something I've always liked, and maybe a perk for some. That said, they're obviously, Android has a little bit of a rift when it comes to Sense versus Blur versus TouchWiz. People love some, hate others, and it may not be your cup of tea. But you can see up here all apps, and you can see they group by all apps, recent, downloaded, and then Sprint apps. So I can go over here and click on Sprint and see NASCAR Sprint ID. Now it's interesting because this is one of the first high-end devices, actually this is the first high-end device if I recall, to come with Sprint ID out of the box. With the Epic, and I can't remember if the Epic got it with the latest update, but at least out of the box it didn't have Sprint ID. The EVO 4G didn't have Sprint ID, the EVO 3D didn't either. So it's interesting to see Sprint ID making its way onto some of the higher end devices. Originally, kind of thought that was going to be something that was going to be reserved for the low end devices, but a lot of the Sprint stuff can be uninstalled. The only 2 things, if I recall, that can't be uninstalled are Sprint ID and Sprint Worldwide. Anything, or a mobile wallet as well, I believe. Music Plus, radio, TV, and movies can be uninstalled, and they really listen to the consumers. There's people that say, hey, bought a device from your competitor, it's big and red, and it has a check mark. I'm just kidding, I'm not calling out anybody. But, there's a lot of bloatware on it, and the bloatware can't be uninstalled. Well, Sprint's listened, and they do allow you to uninstall that through the menu. So otherwise, pretty typical setup here. You have this little shortcut to the market, Android market, and then you can see the way the notifications bar looks. Now down here you have capacitive buttons, menu, home, back, and search. They're kind of flipped from the layout of some of the other Android devices like the Sense-based, or the HTC devices rather. Change there between the home and menu buttons, but otherwise very similar. You're also going to see, if you're used to Motorola Blur, the older versions, you're going to see some changes here in the icons. But let's not take up too much time on that. Let's go into text messaging, and actually let me move my text messaging out here so I can get rid of some of these messages, because I was giving it a test earlier and people were calling because I deliberately left the number in the unboxing video. So we'll come in here to text messaging. That's what that looks like. I can add a plus if I want to. And I'll go down here and go to enter message. Now, it's a 4.3-inch QHD display with Pentile technology. Now, Pentile is a love-hate thing. It is noticeably more pixelated than a lot of the other displays like Retina, Super AMOLED Plus, etc., Super LCD, etc. And that may be an issue for you. That said, it does improve battery life. And overall, I think it looks great. It's very bright. That's one thing I love about it. And the viewing angles are fantastic. Even at different viewing angles, it's very easy to use. But anyway, 4.3 inches. It is high resolution, and you can see here's what it looks like. Now, it comes with 2 keyboards out of the box. It comes with Motorola's multi-touch keyboard. I don't know why I drew a blank there. Multi-touch keyboard, and then it comes with swipe as well. So if swipe's your thing, you can do that and use that to your heart's content. Or you can go back to what I prefer, the multi-touch keyboard, one of my favorite Android keyboards. And you could say the Quick Brown Fox hates mustard. Quick Brown Fox hates mustard. I don't know why we're friends, because I love some mustard. So not sure why he's like that. But anyway, pretty quick, easy to type on. It's a multi-touch keyboard, very fast. The overall responsiveness is fantastic as well. So keyboard looks good. Let's take a look at the browser and jump into PhoneDog, for example. Now, I've had some issues with, I was looking at US Airways stuff earlier, some issues with Sprint's data speeds have been just abysmal in the Charlotte area. I mean, in their 3G data speeds. 4G, I've been averaging 3 to 4 megabits per second, and it's been pretty decent, but 3G just been absolutely terrible. I mean, I'm averaging from like, let's say 100 kilobits per second to 500 kilobits per second, just absolutely abysmal speeds. And like, you look at PhoneDog, for example, it's loading up right now, and it's taking its sweet time on 3G, so I'm going to have to kick it on to 4G. Now, one thing I will say about this device, though, for the terrible data speeds, the wireless radio in this device is the best device I've ever used on Sprint. And I mean, not just recent memory, but just ever. Fantastic wireless radio. Motorola has always been known for that, but you compare it up against something like the EVO 3D or you know, even the Nexus S, which has a 4G, which has a pretty decent radio, and this one just blows it out of the water. I mean, I took this to an area where I typically get no Sprint service and had 1 to 2 bars of service. I mean, it's pretty impressive. If you're looking for a phone for voice calls and that's your primary thing, or you want something, you know, you live in a fringe area, you want something with the best possible reception, this is your boy. I mean, it blew me away. I mean, the reception is fantastic. Call quality is very good, and the earpiece is nice and loud as well. So you can see PhoneDog loading up, and it is a little bit different from the stock, or actually, let me see here, support problem. We'll remove those just so you can see. Actually, let's not. Let's leave one of those so you can see that there's no preview. It's a typical Android layout here, the stock Android layout that comes with it. You know, CNN, and then of course PhoneDog. There's no preview or any sort of picture as to where you left off on the page, so you just have text, which not a big deal, but something I kind of miss. You can go to new window, obviously, see your bookmarks, and you can go to more to, you know, select advanced settings and things like that. But you can see, I mean, it's still loading our page. That's how slow and frustrating the 3G is. So actually, let's kick it onto Wi-Fi, and we'll take a look at the browser. Let's go into settings, and you can see the settings here. It's running Android 2.3.4, so it is running a late version of Android 2.3. So we'll turn on Wi-Fi. I'm going to pull away the Wi-Fi settings so I can go ahead and get it activated on mine. And actually, okay, good. So it is automatic. It remembered my Wi-Fi. Good. So let's load this sucker up. Okay, so there's PhoneDog, bam, popped up in a flash, and you can see pinch to zoom, very, very responsive. I mean, all around this device is really fast. This Tegra 2 processor is very clear that it's running a great processor, and I've had no lag whatsoever in anything. And I compare that to the Droid 3, which is a great device, but there were some occasional issues with lag in the gallery, things like that with the camera. So it's kind of a testament to the Tegra 2 as opposed to the TI OMAP dual core that's in the Droid 3. But anyway, browser looks good. Here's his in portrait and landscape, and you can see the new transition effects in Android 2.3. So it doesn't just make that blocky transition anymore. It's nice and clean from one screen to the other.